عليكم طلاب، رمضان كريم، صحة وعافية وموفقية إن شاء الله. أول محاضرة بالنسبة إلى الفصل الثاني راح تكون هي الإندوكراين سيستم. الإندوكراين سيستم offer to regulate the activity of the body. بالنسبة للإندوكراين سيستم require the presence of a number of chemical messenger أو هرمون. لذلك هذه المحاضرة الأولى راح تكون فقط كintroduction إلى الإندوكراين سيستم، ومقابلها راح نعطيكم تعاريف إلى الإندوكراين جلاند، إلى الهرمون released by the glands. إذا كintroduction راح نبدي endocrine system هو شنو؟ The system that regulate the activity of the body systems. إذن هو راح يشابه nervous system according to the need of the body. Endocrine activity brought about by presence of hormones or chemical messenger. These hormones are produced by endocrine gland. شنو هي الendocrine gland? Are ductless gland without any duct. They release their secretion into the general circulation, and by the general circulation by the blood to the target tissue to produce its effect. The hormones released by the endocrine glands are divided into three types. Number one, we have amine hormones. من اسمها amine معناته derived from a single amino acid اللي هو التيروسين. إذا أخذنا مثال على هذا التايب مالت الهرمون، عندنا ثايرويد هرمونز. ثايرويد هرمونز هي T3 and T4. تراي أيودو ثايرودين، وعندنا ثايروكسين اللي هو T4. أيضا عندنا مثال على الأمين هو hormones reduced by the adrenal medulla. adrenal medulla احنا بوقتها أخذناها release أيضا neurotransmitter اللي سميناها epinephrine norepinephrine ودوبامين، وقلنا هاي additional to the sympathetic activity. إذا هنا الهرمون released by the adrenal medulla اللي هي epinephrine norepinephrine ودوبامين are amine hormones derived from a single amino acid اللي هو التيروسين. The second type of hormone, protein or peptide. Protein or peptide معناته composed of amino acid, either few or hundred of amino acid linked together to produce the protein or peptide hormones. ناخذ example قلنا anterior pituitary hormones. Anterior pituitary hormones و posterior pituitary hormones are really responsible for the release of peptide and protein hormones. من الانتيريور pituitary hormone مثل عندنا growth hormone. مثال الposterior pituitary hormone antidiuretic hormone and oxytocin. إذن pituitary gland composed of two lobes, anterior and posterior, where both of them release protein and peptide hormones. إذا أخذنا البنكرياس release insulin, glucagon. إذا أخذنا parathormone gland release parathormone hormone. These are all polypeptide. The third type of hormones we have steroid. دائما الستيرويد mostly derived from cholesterol. إذا الأوريجين مالها هو cholesterol. راح ناخذ أمثلة، مثلا هرمون secreted by adrenal cortex اللي هي cortisol والdosterone. Hormones released by ovary, estrogen and progesterone. Hormones released by testes, mostly testosterone. Hormones released by the placenta that is formed during pregnancy, أيضا تعطينا more of estrogen and progesterone. In general, hormones احنا أخذنا types of hormones. المين عندنا function هو regulate of metabolic and processes. metabolic processes معناتها عندنا metabolism. شنو الميتابوليزم؟ هو transformation of energy. In the body we have carbohydrate, protein, fat, and are oxidized to produce CO2 and water and produce energy necessary for the processes of life in the body. The oxidation of CO2 and oxidation is a complex process that affects the release of energy is known as catabolism. إذا catabolism هو oxidation with the release of CO2 and water and energy. The energy is stored in the body as a phosphate compound مثل عندنا ATP or in the form عندنا protein or carbohydrate. The formation of carbohydrate, fat, and protein material synthesis or formation require the presence of energy rather than liberation energy. Therefore, this process, اللي هي formation, is called anabolism. إذن أخذنا هذه الجنرال introduction about the hormones. هسه مثل ما قلت احنا راح نحتاج إلى different type of endocrine glands with their release. فسويت ليست راح أعطيكم هذه الليست إلى كل جلاند الهرمون ريليز و site of release والفيزيولوجيكال أكشن. هذا راح يفيدكم لما يكون multiple choice، لما يكون عندنا فراغات، لما يكون عندنا تعريف. وبعدين بعد ما ننتهي هاي ناخذ كل جلاند وناخذ بالديتيل الفيزيولوجيكال اكتيفيتي اوف ذا جلاند. اول جلاند اللي راح ناخذها هي pituitary gland. pituitary gland لها تسمية ثانية تحفظ وهي hypophysis. الhypophysis أو pituitary gland is divided into lobes. Most important are anterior pituitary lobe و posterior pituitary lobe. راح نبدي بأول واحد اللي هو anterior pituitary lobe of the gland. هذا الانتيريور لوب نسميه adenohypophysis. أيضا هذه التسمية. adenohypophysis أو anterior lobe is responsible for the release of 6 hormones. mainly راح ناخذ أول واحد thyroid stimulating hormone اللي هو TSH thyroid stimulating hormone. هذه المختصرات معتمدة علميا لكن تكتب بصورة صحيحة. من أقول TSH معناته T capital S capital و H capital. إلى تسمية ثانية هي thyrotropion. TSH is responsible for the stimulation of thyroid hormone. إذا pituitary تنطيني TSH راح ينفكت الثايرويد جلاند وراح ينطيني الثايرويد هرمون اللي هي T3 and T4. Also affect the growth of thyroid gland. السكند هرمون adrenocorticotropic hormone ACTH أو corticotropin نسميه. هذا يسوي لنا stimulation إلى الادرينال كورتكس to release adrenocortical hormone اللي هي كورتيزول والدوستيرون. ثيرد عندنا growth hormone. growth hormone أو نسميه سوماتوتروبين. من اسمه growth hormone affect the growth of the body. Number 4 follicle stimulating hormone FSH. اسمه follicle إذا responsible for stimulation of the growth of the follicle in the female. In the male, it will affect the process of spermatogenesis, formation of the sperm. Number 5, we have luteinizing hormone أو سمينا ال LH. LH stimulates the ovulation. إذا the growth of the follicle occur by FSH. لكن the final ovulation and the luteinization occur by LH hormone, high weight in the female. And testosterone in the male. إذا ال FSH وال LH خلوها بالكم affect both male and female activity. In 6 hormone we have prolactin, stimulate the secretion of milk and maternal behavior. In the intermediate lobe بالنسبة للبيتويتري release the melanotropin, هذا stimulate melanin synthesis. والposterior lobe of the anterior نسميه neurohypophysis. ليش سمينا neurohypophysis؟ معناته الهرمون are produced by neurons, by body of neurons. 2 hormones are really present in the posterior lobe. Number 1 vasopressin. الفازوبرسين إلى تسمية ثانية نسميه أنتي دايوريتيك هرمون ADH. بالنسبة أنتي دايوريتيك هرمون معناته شنو؟ Produce, increase the absorption of water, increase the retention of water in the body. In high concentration, this hormone produces concentration of blood vessel. Therefore, it's called also vasopressin. The second hormone released by the posterior lobe is oxytocin. Oxytocin causes milk ejection, contraction of a pregnant uterus to expel the body. إذن بعد نهاية pregnancy, delivery of the baby occur by contraction of the uterus due to the effect of oxytocin. Also, contraction of the myoepithelial cell in the breast for ejection of milk upon suckling. من يكون عندنا suckling الرضاعة راح يزيد عندنا الأوكسيتوسين وراح يزيد لنا ejection of milk. إضافة إلى هذه الهرمونز اللي أخذناها related إلى البيتويتري gland anterior and posterior, عندنا variety of hormone of GI gastrointestinal. Other peptide أيضا هذه موجودة in one or more lobe of the pituitary gland. Most important هذه الهرمونز عندنا CCK cholecystokinin، هذا يسوي contraction of the gallbladder، يزيد لنا secretion of bile و affect GI activity. Gastrin يزيد لنا gastric secretion. Renin, angiotensin 2 and calcitonin affect the calcium ion concentration. إذن انتهينا من البيتويتري جلاند، والتسمية قلنا المهمة. البيتويتري جلاند نسميها hypophysis، الانتيريور لوب هو adenocytes، بينما البوستيريور لوب هو neurohypophysis. نيجي إلى second gland endocrine gland هي الادرينال كورتكس. احنا قلنا عندنا adrenal gland موجودة over the kidney composed of 2 عندنا parts، الكورتكس الأوتر layer والinner layer هي المدلة. المدلة انطتنا ابينفرين، نور ابينفرين and dopamine، بينما الادرينال كورتكس تعطينا 2 type of hormone. One is cortisol, has a multiple metabolic function. بدنا نقول multiple معناته affect metabolism of protein, carbohydrate and fatty material. The second type of hormone released by adrenal cortex هو aldosterone. Aldosterone affects the absorption of sodium. Therefore, it will reduce the excretion of the sodium by the kidney and increase potassium excretion. إذا يسوي لنا امتصاص إلى الصوديوم واكسكريشن إلى البوتاسيوم. Therefore, it will increase the level of sodium in the body and decrease the amount of potassium. الأذر عندنا gland هي thyroid gland. Thyroid gland اللوكيشن مالتها الانتيريور part of the neck below the larynx and overlying the trachea. The thyroid gland produce 3 types of hormones. Number 1 T4 عندنا thyroxine, triiodothyronine أو T3 نسميه. These hormones increase the chemical reaction inside the body, therefore increase metabolic rate in the body. The third hormone calcitonin, الاسم calcitonin, affect the deposition of calcium in the bone, thereby decrease the calcium concentration in the extracellular fluid. إذا راح ياخذ الكالسيوم من البلد من extracellular fluid ويسوي له deposition in the bone to increase the level of calcium ion. أيضا عندنا parathyroid gland تنطيده. parathyroid عندنا هرمون. الباراثايرويد gland هي 4 tiny صغيرة V-shaped gland موجودة بالأبر واللور. عندنا لوب of the thyroid عندنا gland. راح تنطينا الباراثورمون هرمون. أيضا هذا responsible for control of calcium ion in the extracellular fluid. عندنا number of mechanisms. Increase the absorption of calcium from the gut. إذا راح يزيد absorption مال calcium from the small intestine into the blood. Excretion of calcium by the kidney. Affect إذن excretion of calcium by the kidney. Release of calcium from the bones. إذن هذا هنا عكس عندنا الكالسيتونين. هنا راح ياخذ الكالسيوم من البون ويودي إلى الجنرال circulation. Another endocrine عندنا gland هي البنكرياس. البنكرياس location مالتها behind and beneath the stomach. Release or composed of 4 types of endocrine cells. Each cell is responsible for the formation of endocrine hormones of the pancreas. راح ناخذ أول هرمون هو الأنسولين. Insulin affect the entry of glucose from the blood into the cell of the body. Therefore, لما يكون control إلى الجلوكوز affect the metabolism of carbohydrate. Number 2 عندنا glucagon. Increase the synthesis and release of glucose from the liver into the circulation. هذا بالعكس راح ياخذ الجلوكوز من الليفر وديه وين إلى general circulation. Number 3 somatostatin. Somatostatin وين بيجيكم هو an inhibitory hormone. Therefore, it will inhibit insulin, glucagon, and pancreatic polypeptide secretion. Number 4, we have pancreatic polypeptide. It will slow the absorption of food in the human. Another organ, we have an ovary. The ovary is responsible for 2 types of hormones. Mainly, female hormones. Number 1, estrogen, which is responsible for the development of the female sex organ, development of the breast, secondary sexual characteristic, all are related to estrogen. Second type of hormone is progesterone. This will stimulate the secretion of the uterine endometrial gland, a gland that is present in the uterus. Also help to promote the development of secondary apparatus of the breast. إذا هنا البريست والuterus are affected by activity of progesterone. ما أخذنا الأوفري راح نرجع إلى الفيميل وراح ناخذ التستس. testis responsible for release of testosterone اللي هو main sex hormone in the male. This will affect the growth of the secondary sex characteristic in the male. أيضا عندنا البلاسنتا. Placenta is the organ that is produced during pregnancy to accommodate the fetus. The placenta is responsible for 4 types of hormones. Number 1, human chorionic gonadotropin. Human chorionic gonadotropin promote the growth of the corpus luteum and secretion of estrogen and progesterone by corpus luteum. Corpus luteum هي شنو؟ After the release of the mature ova, the remaining tissue are enlarged, contain many fatty material, and it is known as corpus luteum. This corpus luteum is responsible for release of estrogen and progesterone by the placenta. And this hormone will affect the female during pregnancy to inhibit the formation of the menstrual cycle. إذا نحن عادة بالpregnancy menstrual cycle is stopped due to the presence of estrogen and progesterone by corpus luteum. Another hormone released by the placenta is estrogen. This will promote growth of the mother sex organ and some tissue of the fetus. وهذه من رح ناخذ البريجنسي رح نبدي نشرحها بالتفصيل. Progesterone, third hormone, development of the uterine endometrium, implantation of fertilized ovum, إذا implantation of the fertilized ovum in the uterus occur by the activity of progesterone. Development of the fetal tissue, development of the breast and the mother. Fourth type of hormone, human somatomammotropin, promote the growth of some tissue in the fetus and development of the breast and the mother. Another gland, pineal gland, احنا أخذناها. pineal gland responsible for secretion of melatonin, وأخذنا melatonin which is affect the sleep-wakeful cycle. In addition to the cycle, pineal melatonin have some sexual maturity and body rhythm. إذا انتهينا من هاي الجلاند مثل ما قلت إنه هذه التعاريف أخذناها بصورة سريعة بصورة مبسطة لكنها مفيدة خاصة فترة الامتحانات. رح نرجع إلى الهرمونز. رح نسوي إحدى الهرمونز قسمناها إلى أمين وبيبتايد والستيرويد. رح نسوي comparison between the different type of hormones. أول comparison رح نبدي هو بالformation أو structure of these hormones. عندنا أول نوع هو أمين هو derived from single amino acid. أخذنا تيروسين وأخذنا أمثلة عليه. Number 2 البيبتايد قلنا composed of a few أو 100 of amino acid وأخذنا الهرمونز by البنكرياس هرمون by anterior and posterior pituitary gland. Number 3 steroid وقلنا هذا يجي من الكوليسترول وأخذنا مثال الادرينال كورتكس عندنا هرمون and هرمون by sex organ. الكومباريزن الثانية between a different type of hormones depend on the formation of these hormones. Amino peptide are formed from endocrine cells that are rich in the endoplasmic reticulum of the rough type. احنا نعرف الروugh type of endoplasmic reticulum معناته عندنا رايبوسوم ribosome معناته synthesis of protein material. Therefore, الأمين والبيبتايد are derived or synthesized by endoplasmic reticulum of the rat. إذا نرجع إلى الستيرويد. These are formed from cells that are rich in smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Smooth endoplasmic reticulum contain enzyme in their membrane responsible for synthesis of the steroid and the hormones. Another comparison depends on the storage of the hormone. إذا أخذنا الأمين والبيبتايد are stored in vesicles that are present in the cytoplasm, while steroid are present as a fatty droplet in the cytoplasm and can pass through the phospholipid membrane to the extracellular fluid, or it may be stored in vesicle, secretory vesicles, and released by process of exocytosis to the outside of the cell. Another comparison between different types of hormones is the presence of these hormones in the general circulation and their half-life. Amine and peptide are present in free form, not combined with any other material. Their half-life with general circulation is very short, few seconds or minutes, because they are rapidly inactivated by enzyme activity. After giving their response, enzyme present either in the blood, in liver or kidney, or in target organ, they inactivate these hormones and therefore they become physiologically inactive. نيجي إلى الستيرويد. الستيرويد احنا قلنا الأمين والبيبتايد present in free، بينما الستيرويد are present in combined form. Combined form معناته شنو؟ After their release they bind with the plasma protein, especially the globulin. Degree of binding vary from 40 to 95%. معناته 40% إذا bound 60% راح يكون عندنا free. 95 إذا bound معناته 5% فقط راح يكون عندنا free. The hormones which are free are physiologically active because the activity of the bound form occurs after the dissociation from the plasma protein. إذا بالbound form لازم الهرمون and dissociate from the bounding and then produce its effect. The binding of the hormone gives its protection, therefore a longer half-life, probably days or weeks. Now عندنا exception. الexception thyroid hormone. Thyroid hormone شنو؟ هرمون أمين produced from tyrosine. But الexception هنا it present in bound form. The amount of free is 0.05% فقط, but it is mostly active. Half-life is about 2 weeks, يعني long half-life. Therefore هنا عندنا thyroid hormones نعتبرها كexception. When percentage of a free form of the hormone is small, indicate that the hormone is active. And we do not need a large quantity of the hormone. أيضا عندنا amount of hormone free form balanced by the amount of the bound form. If a disturbance occurs between the two, then pathological condition may take place. If the free form increase, this will lead to a reduction in the bound form. Another property shared by different types of hormones is the presence of negative feedback mechanism. The endocrine gland has a natural activity for secretion of the hormone to produce its effect on the target organ or cell. If the activity is increased, therefore, for regulation of normal level, a negative feedback will occur on the gland to decrease its secretion, therefore regulating the function of the hormone. Another property, we have the type of hormonal action. Endocrine hormone control activity by binding with a specific receptor. إذن الهرمون ما ممكن أن يعطينا any activity unless it will bound with its receptor. The combination will produce a number of reactions. Large number of receptors are present. يتراوح بين 2000 to 10,000. Receptor must be highly specific for the hormone in the particular tissue. The location of the receptor مفروض أن تكون بالcell, either in the cell membrane. مثلا الريسبتور responsible for protein, peptide and catecholamine, these are present in cell membrane. Receptor for steroid hormone are present in the cytoplasm. هاي أخذناها chapter 1. Receptor for thyroid hormone are present in the nucleus. Mechanism of hormonal reaction. Mechanism احنا ماخذين mechanism, أخذنا cyclic AMP, أخذنا mechanism for steroid, mechanism for... لكن لأنه هذه مهمة راح نحتاجها خلال دراستنا إلى الهرمون، فراح أعطيها بصورة مختصرة وأعطيها بشكل شرح مبسط وفقر للتذكير بالنسبة إلى معلومات على الهرمونز. أول واحد راح ناخذ سايكليك AMP. إن سايكليك AMP وقتها سميناه هو second messenger. Protein, peptide affect their activity by formation of cyclic AMP. Cyclic AMP ليش سميناه second messenger؟ لأنه الفيرست messenger هو عندنا combination between the hormone and its receptor. This will affect the formation of cyclic AMP that produce the response. إذن عندنا cyclic AMP will initiate the activation of the cell وقلنا هو second messenger والfirst messenger هو original hormone combined with its receptor. Physiological response إلى cyclic AMP include a variety of activity. For example, activation of enzyme, change in permeability of the cell, muscle contraction or relaxation, protein synthesis, cell secretion. Then a number of different physiological actions are related to cyclic AMP. هسه راح ناخذ هنا الفكر يوضح لنا information of the cyclic AMP as a second messenger. The first messenger عندنا hormone combined with its receptor. The combination will activate an enzyme present in the membrane known as adenylyl cyclase. Adenylyl cyclase activated form will enter the cell and affect the conversion of some ATP into cyclic AMP by presence of magnesium ion. Cyclic AMP will remain in the circulation for a few seconds or minutes to produce the physiological response. After the activity of the cyclic AMP, it will be converted into inactive form. The conversion occurs by presence of enzyme phosphodiesterase PDA to produce inactive form 5-AMP. 5-FMP أيضا راح يرجع إلى ATP وهكذا راح يكون عندنا cycle for the formation of cyclic AMP. أيضا السكند type of mechanism احنا ماخذيه راح نعيده بصورة سريعة، هو hormonal control by activation of genes. راح ناخذ هنا الستيرويد هرمون. أخذنا الهرمونز دخل إلى الممبرين. There is no receptor in the membrane for steroid. The receptor is present in the cytoplasm. Therefore, the combination to produce a hormone receptor complex in the cytoplasm, the complex will enter the nucleus. Affect activation of genes to produce RNA and messenger RNA. The messenger RNA will enter the cytoplasm, produce a synthesis of a specific protein that increase the activity in the cell. Example, in the renal عندنا tubule الهرمون aldosterone. Aldosterone stimulates protein enzyme to cause sodium ion absorption and potassium excretion. احنا قلنا المسنجر RNA راح يطلع إلى السيل و affect protein enzyme. The protein enzyme هنا appear in the renal tubule after 45 minutes, which is the time required for full action. أيضا ممكن أن يكون عندنا ريسبتر بالنيوكليوس. مثال هنا الستيرويد أخذنا الألدوستيرون والريسبتر موجود عندنا بالسيتوبلازم. الثايرويد هرمون enter the cell membrane when the receptor present in the nucleus and in the same way activate specific genes, production of RNA, messenger RNA to produce the final physiological effect.